Welcome to the Lead at Work podcast, where every episode is about learning how to develop our skills as leaders in our workplace and keep a healthy work-life balance. Here are your hosts, Shawn Franco and Tim Joyce.
Welcome back to our podcast and the conviction that leading at work is the only way you want to go to work. I am here with my partner in leadership crime, TJ. How you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. Leadership crime. That is a new term I don't think I've ever heard, but I'll take it.
That's the next podcast, and we're looking forward to it. Hey, I'm excited today. We're going to talk about competency because as we're looking at this combination of character, competency, and then compassion, these are the things that are going to change a workplace and a way that every person here can live a more joy-filled, satisfying work experience. We're really at war with this idea that if you don't have a big title or some kind of expression of power, that work is meaningless and just something to get through. You are where you are because God put you there. You are where you are because you have something to give. And we are going to talk today about the functions, about how do I make sure I'm competent, because you could be a super compassionate person, you can have great character, and if you do not get the job done, you ain't lasting long. And
Cuts to the chase.
Yeah, and you're not going to be someone people listen to.
And come back to because we take off when we get going on this, we get very passionate. We've been in now about 4 or 5 of these. The 3 items that Shawn mentioned: the character, competency, and compassion, in our opinion, drive influence. Mm-hmm. Influence is a key definition of what a leader is. Therefore, the whole piece of it's not a title.
Yeah.
It's not a title. It's what is the influence you have on your coworkers have on you, whether you're frontline, middle management, upper, you're on the fringes, in the center, whatever it is. Leaders lead where they stand.
Right.
So where you are, regardless of what you're doing, you are the leader in that moment and where you are. And the topic of the day is competency. And what does that mean for influence that makes people follow or come together? That is a critical part of leadership.
Yeah, so we are going to come from the approach of how to grow in competency. Some people are naturally gifted. Some people are just super quick learners, right? And they're just gifted. That's great. We're going to assume you're like us, right? Not gifted.
Are we gifted? Oh, okay.
No,
we're the not gifted.
No,
okay.
It's not just easy. We've got to work at it. And so because you should be a leader at work, that means you got to be competent. And you may not be hey, I didn't get a degree in this job. I've never done this before. It doesn't mean you can't grow in competency. And so, TJ, we're going to talk about 3 things for growing in competency. We're talking about being a good listener, being a good learner, and leaning in to what you've got to gain mastery over. And, again, I kind of right off from the beginning, I want to fight against this idea of, well, I'm not that smart, I'm not that good. It's like you can have the competency to make a difference if you'll listen, if you'll learn, and if you'll lean in. So which one do you want to start with, TJ?
Well, I'd like to start with the word that you used that over my career, when I hear people say it, I will actually stop and say, don't ever use that word again, and that is just. Mm-hmm. I'm just this. Mm. I'm just that. No, you're so much more than just this.
Yeah.
The challenge I find is we're not aware of the fullness of who we are and how God has created us.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at a leader, first off, as Shawn would say, a leader, and I might put him in a little different order.
Sure.
A leader must be a lifelong learner.
Absolutely.
They're committed to learning for life. I'm now in a new season where I've retired. I had a leadership book out that I was reading, and one of my kids saw it and goes, "Dad, why are you reading a leadership book? You've retired." Up quickly, one of Dad's teachable moments, leaders must be lifelong learners. I don't stop leading until I draw my last breath.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I lead wherever I am. I don't have a title anymore. Okay, I got that, but I'm still leading where I stand. Therefore, I must be a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
And that's a key mindset of leadership. It's like, are you always looking to grow yourself? Not necessarily take courses online, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But when you look at leadership, how do you learn? Well, for me, I do a lot of reading. But reading's a way. It could be a little bit or a lot. Your second piece is listening.
Podcasts.
Right, which is very good in terms of who you listen to. I listen to this guy a lot. I glean a lot that comes from him as well as other. I actually listen to his wife more. She's very wise. Yeah. Still,
smart man.
It's about listening. A third thing of how you learn is leaders flock. They go together. Are there conferences that you can go to that is about your profession or about a marriage or about your home or whatever it might be? You go and flock. And then here's the one that a lot of people don't realize, and this maybe is another one we can bring up. When a leader's learning, they find a mentor.
Yes.
They find one that's gone before them.
Yes.
But all of these things of the reading, the flocking, the listening, the mentorship, that's part of a leader is a learner, a lifelong learner.
Yeah. We're talking about competency, right? We're talking about being someone who's always learning to do it better, to do it right. And TJ, we're going to hit this first one. And again, here's what's running in our mind. I don't have time to learn, right? Yeah. And obviously, I think the answer is you don't have time not to learn.
What stands in your way of I don't have time? Yeah. There's good things. One of my sons has 2 children under the age of 3. They don't have time to think.
Yeah.
When those boys are up and going, basically they live for 8 o'clock at night till 5 in the morning. That's kind of their only time there. They could easily say, I don't have time for this because I got a job to go do. But what gets in the way of time to learn is a very key piece that you identify it. Say, okay, let's call this thing out. Therefore, if you call it out, it's often been said, if you can identify what the challenge is, that's 70% of the battle.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So then at that point, now you come up with a tactic to learn or to listen.
Yeah. So, a lot of that boils down to one, am I starting off the day behind? It's getting up at the right time and pushing. I'm not naturally a morning person at all.
Really?
And okay. So I've got to push myself there. And when I get out of practice, I got to pick myself back up, get in there. Because if I start the day at the right time, I've got some time. Then there's the issue of planning. There's just lunchtime at the end. I mean, so many people, it's just finding some time, being intentional about it, this idea of learning. I think it was Bill Abate, one of our friends at church, has written a great book on leadership. And he says, so many people work in their job, they never work on their job. They're so in it, they don't work on it. And so sometimes that means, and I think this is part of leaning in a little bit, sometimes means I'm going to come in early, or during the weekend, I'm going to read a little bit. It's a podcast while I'm driving home. I always tell people who say they don't have time, I'm like, let me see your phone and your social media usage. I bet you've got some time.
I'll go to screen time.
Yeah, go to screen time. Let's check out how much time you really got.
Right?
Yeah. And that's not trying to be negative. That's just like challenge you. It's like, hey, you've got some time. Put some on, put this podcast on and put on 1.5 speed, or maybe 2 if we're not talking fast enough. And you can knock it out. And just having the attitude of a learner will make it'll naturally bleed into not just having more content, but when you do things, you'll think better through them.
So when you spoke briefly about leaning in, a key word there as you're talking about it is intentionality. Yeah. How are you intentionally leaning in to learn or to listen? Yeah. I heard one time, forgive me, I don't remember his name, but he was the president at the time for the University of Southern Cal, which is one of the largest research universities in the world. And his whole thing was, he wrote a book called The Contrarian's Guide to Leadership. And his whole thing was the way we're just besieged with information and time. Mm-hmm. And so here's the head of this university. He took it upon himself for 6 months. He didn't read a single magazine, periodical, or newspaper. And people are going, well, you're the head of a research university. You have to stay abreast of everything. How could you do that? And at the end of the experience in 6 months, he found that he was 90% up to speed on everything he needed to know. And here's why. Because he got so much information from the periphery. So in conversation to somebody would go, hey, did you read the article this morning about so-and-so? Or did you see the game? Like, no, I missed it. What happened with it? Now, you got to understand bias of where it comes. But the point he was trying to get at is, and this is a great statement, for every book you read, for every minute you focus on something, you're giving up 100 minutes on something else. You only have limited time.
Yeah.
So what's your intentionality that you lean in to what you're going to listen to, what you're going to learn, what you're going to watch, what you're going to hang around to.
Yeah.
If you're trying to grow your competency, whether it's in your job, being a better husband or wife, a better father, a better soccer coach for a 5-year-old soccer team, whatever it might be, you've got limited time to grow this competency. What is the intentionality of where you're leaning in, where are you listening, where are you going on that? And trust me, it's easy for me to say it. I've spent my entire life just trying to perfect it, and I have not perfected it. And I'm at a new season of life, Shawn, that now it's like there really is an urgency here.
Yeah.
Right? Not that tomorrow's the last day. I still feel my best days are coming in this retired season.
Yeah.
But how am I intentionally living into it to learn as a leader?
Yeah. Leaning in. When I got my first job out of college, again, I had a marketing degree, and I got a job as a tech support guy for a software package, right? And not my area of expertise at all.
I didn't see you being a tech support.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Geek Squad, maybe.
Yeah. And so I get calls, and it was just on this one software program, and they were launching it, so it was brand new, and they need all help. And I remember after the first week, I was like, I am out of my depth. This is just, I don't know this stuff. And but what I noticed was every person, we had all these cubicles lined up, every person was building a football of answers, right? And so one Saturday, I decided to go on in, and I went through everybody's football. And I photocopied all the answers, like, okay, if this question gets asked, I'm going to answer here or there. And what I did was, it was just leaning in. It's like, I'm not going to run away from something, because we had some guys, like we had people on tech support. Everybody came from all these different majors, but it was a job. We were just happy to have it. And people just like, I try not to be on the phone. I try to I just refer away. I just try to run away from the problem. I was like, no, there's a way to do this. You just got to get in there and learn. And what I did was, after the first week, like all of a sudden I took a Saturday and I said, I'm just going to figure this out. I got all of my information down. I sorted it, and I was ready to go on Monday. I was ready. I had answers. And, whatever position you're in, one of the common mistakes is, I'm not very good at this, so I'm just going to give it my minimum until I figure something else out. And while it doesn't mean you stay at a job for forever, when you're in it, learn it. Don't give it your minimum, give it your best. And lean in a little bit, figure out who you have to talk to, what you have to learn, and then don't worry about failing a few thousand times. Just do it until you're the person who's like, I wasn't a big tech guy, but I knew my program. I could tell you 99% of the answers of what people are going to call me about, just because I leaned in and said, I'm going to get this done.
You know what, as you said that, something that came racing into my mind is one of the greatest answers in leadership when somebody brings something to you, a question or whatever, is like, I don't know. Let me go find that answer, and I'll get back to you. Now, get back to them and lean into it.
That's the
go
character.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
But how many times have you seen people fake it?
Yeah.
Right? And you know they're faking it, right?
Yeah.
But so that humility I don't know, but I'm willing to learn to go figure it out. So personal confession here, I am awful with technology. It is the bane of my existence. I am that generation. I'm trying my best to learn it. And what it is, I have to lean into it. I'm afraid I'm going to go down a rabbit hole somewhere and just blow up my whole laptop.
Yeah.
Now I haven't blown one up yet, but I'm afraid of that. But that is a place where I'm like, and I try to run from it. And I constantly will challenge myself. No, wait a minute. Go ask the question. Go try to figure it out. Step into it. Just dig it. Learn it. Not to be an expert on it, but just so there's a peace of mind and a comfort in it. And what's amazing is there's sometimes I end up solving things for other people because I've learned it, which is just absolutely ironic.
Yeah. So good. So we're growing in competency. We don't have to naturally be gifted at it. We just have to, one, decide we're going to be a learner and think about how do I make time to learn? And then we want to lean in, and those things that we're tempted to run away from, we're just going to try to find a way to lean in and try to study it, try to take some time. And then I think this idea of listening, and I think the easiest way to know if you're a listener is if you're asking questions.
Oh, here. I thought you were going to say you're still watching this podcast.
That too.
You know, it's you're so true on all this and that whole piece. And this is, you're probably not going to want to hear this because I used to be told this. I was like, I hated it. But your competency grows with time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
So who you are now as a leader is nothing to who you're going to be a year from now, 5 years from now. If you're still going to be in tech telemarketing, or if you're going to be called by God to lead a church.
Yeah.
And that happens too. But this is one thing I've learned. Everything you've learned where you are now and prior is not wasted later.
Never.
God uses everything that he pours into it. So somewhere you got some skills in your telemarketing work that you're applying here.
Yeah, oh,
at
absolutely.
Cornerstone. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe it's this podcast that you're figuring out. But that's something that God doesn't waste anything. And who you are and where you are right now is not who you are and where you're going to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You will grow in your competency. It's a natural factor of life if you're listening, you're learning, and you're leaning in.
Yeah. Got to learn to ask questions. I remember I became the chair of social services for Chesterfield Colonial Heights. And, I was committed. I loved it. But, man, I didn't have a social work degree. And there was one guy on our board, Dean Smith was his name.
Good name.
Yeah.
Being
good name.
a Tar Heel.
And he had been on the board for a while, and I remember at the end of before my first meeting where I had to chair things, he was the chair before me, and I said, Dean, I need your number, and he said sure. I said, if it's okay, I'm calling with a lot of questions because I'm going to need to learn a lot to do this well. And I don't need to know all the work of this. So my job is the chair. I don't have to be the social worker, but I've got to know things. And so I need a place to ask questions. And so just that mentality of listening, it's like, I'm going to ask questions and I'm going to listen because there's something I can learn.
Mentor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
Well, grow in competency today. Find a way to do something, to learn a little bit more, to lean a little bit more, to listen a little bit more. And you're going to find that work is a place where you've got more satisfaction, enjoy it more, and you're going to see how just having that level of competency will open up the door to lead in so many other ways.
Here.
All right. Well, it's been great being with you. Looking forward to the next podcast. Remember, you can subscribe on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple. We'd love for you to take this journey with us, and let's lead at work.